Here's a video that goes to Passport World's language learning. Okay, once you get a language, what are you going to do with it? Where are you going to go? Where are you going to go? Now, here's the thing. You've got to have some really, really powerful incentives to learn a language. And the reason why you got to have some powerful incentives is because you're talking about disrupting your life and sleeping about 4 hours per night for years and years and years and years. And no one that's talking about language and in the travel sphere, they're going to admit that. They're going to make it sound like you're just gonna walk outside in ayuvias and the gotas are just gonna drop on your head and all of a sudden you're gonna be speaking. And that's true. 1 year you're gonna be speaking. But that does not mean you're gonna be listening, reading and understanding and be able to matriculate in cultural context. You might be able to tell somebody yo quiero por agua. Hey, yo quiero por sexo oral. Uh, me gusta tacos. Uh, you know, yo suelen a dormir a la 10 horas. You might be able to say all of that, but the little subtle things that that and you say this and people get upset. Let me put on a little bit more. You say this and people get upset that it takes 46 years if you were born speaking Portuguese and you spoke nothing but Portuguese. It's going to take you 46 years to get good Portuguese. It's going to take you 42 years to get good Spanish. It's going to take you 28 years to get good English. And you say that and people say, oh, no, that's not the case. That's not the case. And they are not understanding the complexities of language. They're not understanding the complexities of language. Certainly in the first 500 words, left, right, jump, talk, I want to go to the bathroom, stop, walk. Yeah, you can get those. But that doesn't mean that the United States government is going to call your phone and say, hey, I understand that you've been studying Spanish for, 12 months and you're on the internet. Now, you sound real good on the internet and we have a problem and we want to take you to Mexico and you can help us renegotiate NAFTA. Okay, that's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen. And you know it's not gonna happen. So jumping on the internet acting like it's gonna happen is ridiculous. Okay, so you gotta have some powerful incentives that make you want to not sleep for years and years and years and years. You gotta have some powerful incentives that make you want to risk poisoning yourself every time you're at a English speaking food truck, Portuguese speaking food truck, French speaking food truck. Every time you get ready to eat something, wherever you're at, the roach coach, whatever the case may be. You see a whole bunch of Mexicans lined up at the roach coach, and and I've seen it before, and people are standing there and they don't even know what to order, and they don't even know what to safely order. I mean, so you see the same guy, he'll order the same thing for months and months and months and months and months because that's as much Spanish as he has, and he can't order anything else. So it's taco, 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 taco. If he gets sick and the taco makes him sick, He just he just throws up, and the very next day he's right there at the Roach Coach ordering the same thing: taco, 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 because he can't say anything else. He literally has Taco Bell Spanish. Okay, so once you get the Spanish, what are you gonna do with it? Once you get the Portuguese, what are you gonna do with it? Once you get the French, what are you gonna do with it? Once you get the English, what are you gonna do with it? Now, for a person from Latin America, it's no problem. You are gonna go north with your English. That's what you're learning English for. You're gonna go north. So you got a direction, you got an orientation, you know exactly what you're gonna do. But if you're in the United States, you have no real incentive, not a real incentive, to ever go south. You don't. Okay, so passport bros. Passport bros have an incentive to kind of learn some of the language in the countries that they're going to. But you can't take all of your little passport bro values with you. And here's a guy that he wants to take his values. This lady that I'm about to show you, she's from Great Britain. But this guy, he wants to take his values and apply it to her situation. Watch.
Truly, I'm flabbergasted. I don't use that word. I do not use that word. Like, that is not something I just, I'm flabbergasted. No, like, this is flabbergasting.
This is what my face looks like after taking 1,000 men less than 12 hours ago. I told you girls taking fluids for moisturizer was good for your skin. The big 1,000 was completely done. So it started off, I'll give you a bit of an overview. After to start with, it was just like the room was absolutely full. Then we did groups of 5, like one after the other of 5s. I wanted to give people more time, so then it went down to like one-on-ones, didn't it? So like one person would watch whilst I was with somebody, and then it would literally just be like a rotating circle like that.
See, now this clip, guys, she's literally talking about how she was really able to fit all these guys in. Like, if you do the math, that's about 41 seconds per dude. Now, obviously, every dude probably didn't have a happy ending. I think she just really did that for the culture, so to speak. She was really about getting the trains running, and it had to be that, though. It had to be a bunch of dudes in a circle. I don't know who went around and tallied all the dicks, because that's a diabolical job.
Now, you see how he has brought his values into this. Now, if he isn't gonna say that, hey, Wilt Chamberlain says that he was with 20,000 women, which everyone laughs at. But here is a woman that is with 1,057 men in 12 hours, and now he considers that this is somewhat scandalous. But that is one of the major driving forces around language acquisition. Right there. Sex. Porque es más fácil aprender un idioma en la cama que la alúa. Ok, ¿qué palabra en español no está alúa? Es más fácil aprender un idioma en la cama que la escuela, ¿sí? O la universidad. So it's much easier to learn a language in the Alua. Now here's something that's significant. Alua is Latin, and it means a room in the palace of the king, and that's very important because that's how language study started. Diplomats, and whether you like it or not, diplomats, women with high libidos that sold themselves. Once again, Caravaggio's Madonna, where she's a woman that was plying her trade outside of the cathedral where Caravaggio did his art and where he attended mass. And when he took the cover off of the painting, everyone gasped. Everyone gasped. You know. Now the reason they all gasped is because they all knew her, and they all knew her intimately. Okay. Okay. So so this woman right here is like she she doesn't even shock me. She doesn't even surprise me. I mean, the count is not even what I would consider to be unattainable or fantastic. It is what it is. And he is so fixated on a physical act that he doesn't understand that women, of all people, are not strictly physical beings. There is something that supersedes the physical, and out of this 1,500 and 1,057 men, there might only be one guy that she has true and legitimate feelings for. And that doesn't mean that every last one of these 1,057 men were not a pleasurable experience. But to a woman, there's a difference between pleasure and meaning. Whereas a man arrives at the concept of pleasure and meaning late in life. And that's very important. So this lady is not claiming that she had meaningful sexual relationships with all 1,057 men. She is just talking about a physical act. There's a difference. So, if you take this guy, and he's a monolingual, and he's discussing a woman that's thousands of miles away from him, because he and she both speak English, but they don't speak the same English dialect. He is totally focused on his world. He can't understand her world. He doesn't understand the circumstances. And so he takes the superstructure, the skeleton from his world, and now he's imposing it on her world. And he is assigning motives to her. He does not even really assign a motive to the 1,057 men who can admit that this is a beautiful and desirable woman, and that probably no guy that was in that line would pass up that opportunity to be with such a beautiful criancia. Okay, see, he isn't admitting to any of this. So his ideology, his doctrine, his way of thinking blocks out all other considerations. And that is the problem with monolingualism. Is that monolingualism doesn't really tell you much about why people do what they do. You watch the Dustin Hoffman movie, the old movie Papillon, where he's in Guyane, and you know he's I haven't seen the movie in a long time, but his incentives were different on Devil's Island than they were when he wasn't on Devil's Island. He was more introspective on Devil's Island than he was when he was not on Devil's Island. And that's what being in, and I hate to use this word, That's what, so I use this word instead. That's what monolinguals don't understand. They don't understand putting themselves in the other person's shoes. They always want to think everything from an absolute comfortable focus. They do not want to be uncomfortable. They only are concentrating on their goals. They don't assume that anyone else in any other culture might have a goal that is different than theirs, that may even be viable. You know, they go into a place where there's cannibalism, and even though the cannibals are not attempting to consume them, they're just offended by it. Oh my God, look at them, they're cannibals. I, the question is not that they're cannibals. The question is why are they cannibals? See, the the bilingualist, the plurilingualist, that's the first thing that they're going to ask in their mind is why. The monolingualist, he isn't going to ask why. He's going to say, it's going to say don't do it, stop. You know, that's how you think as a monolingualist. So that's exactly what this guy is saying. He's saying don't, stop, don't do it. Watch a little bit more of this.
Right there. Hopefully it wasn't a dude, right? That tallied all of, is yours out over there? No, it don't count if it ain't out. And then the dude was sitting here like making sure he's counting all the dicks. It's like, bro, that's crazy, bro. That's wild activity. Pause on that whole shit. But like, bro, that's some wild stuff, man. Like, this is something you really can't make up, guys.
But on a scale of like 1 to 10, what hurts more, your mouth or your...
Yeah, probably done that a little bit.
I got some more clips to show at the end, guys, but I want to get a little bit more serious on this, bro. It's just crazy. Like, the situation we in today, let's talk about how we really need to be operating with women today. It's really simple, right? Like, any girl on this type of activity is just not even like, you can't even give these types of chicks the time of day. Like, in my public...
Now, see how nonsensical he is? See? That's why you say that. That's why you say there are two types of men. There are experienced men and non-experienced men. He's under the assumption that all women have her capacity. See? And that's how monolingualism, that's where it leads you, because you don't know anything about Japanese geisha girls. You don't know anything about Chinese foot wrapping. You don't know anything about World War II comfort women. You don't know anything about what went on with the French women that collaborated with the Nazis. You don't even consider that some woman in the antebellum South could have, like Chica de Silva. See, in Portuguese is no problem because you know of Chica de Silva. So it's not scandalous to say that Chica de Silva wanted to be with the guy who owned the plantation, whereas because cosmopolitan, Brazil is cosmopolitan. But in the United States, to insinuate that Mary Hemming wanted to be with Thomas Jefferson is just absolutely scandalous. Strom Thurmond. To say that Strom Thurmond could have possibly loved the African American woman that he had a child with, and the child is still living, it's just scandalous. See, because a monolingual culture, a culture that wants one language, one set of laws, one set of custom, absolute uniformity, Even though they say they want free speech. Yeah, we want free speech, but we want you to freely speak in English. Okay? You know, a country that says we don't have a legal language, but we want you to freely speak in English. Okay. So that's what this guy is not taking into consideration. See, he's just looking at it from his point of view. Nobody else's point of view matters. Monolingual point of view.
Interview is like, you should be out here having fun, and you know where to designate women when they start talking. That's what you're generally gonna encounter. You're gonna encounter some women, and you're gonna be like, all right, well, we got a fun time for the short time, or hey, you know what? I'm not even about that. I don't want to waste my time on that. You have
Again, see, what he is assuming is that all women have the capacity of the woman who was with 1,057 men. She just set a world record because not all women have that capacity, but he can't understand that. The reason women are sex workers and are successful at it is because they're like pro football players. A pro football player, he's at quarterback and he can throw the ball really well. That doesn't mean that the punter can throw the ball really well. That doesn't mean the coach can throw the ball really well, even though, he's a retired quarterback. That doesn't mean, he can throw the ball really well. That doesn't mean that the water boy can throw the ball really well. That doesn't mean that you can pick some guy out of the stands and say, hey, the quarterback is down, suit up. Anybody can throw a football. No, it's a specialized skill. So these guys that are promoting this narrative, these monolinguals that are promoting this narrative that all women have the capacity, and I'm going to say this in Spanish because it's less offensive. Ellos dijo que todas las mujeres tienen la capacidad por puterías. Okay, all women don't have that capacity. They don't. An experienced man will tell you that infrequently you can meet a woman that can do what this woman is doing. Let's say that you brought this number down to 20 men per day for an extended period of time. It is infrequent. You can find few women that can do that. You can find few women that can do that. See, but he nature is on his side. He doesn't even have to make an argument. He doesn't even have to vilify every woman. See, he's vilifying every woman without understanding that every woman doesn't have that capacity. See, every woman doesn't have that capacity, and this is what monolingualism leads to. You don't read like things like the French version of vaginal senescence. So you don't read those research papers. You don't read what the Russians said. You don't read, what the British say. You don't read what anybody in Polynesia say. You just, I doubt if he's even read the Kinsey study. I doubt if he's even read the Framingham study. He probably hasn't even looked at Grey's Anatomy, let alone the specific architecture of the brain. And so here he is. He's attempting to look at one singular act, which by his own admission is a world record, and then smear every woman. Every woman. We're not realizing, man, you know what? I'm smearing my mother. I'm smearing my sister. And I'm not saying that this woman's act is regrettable or it's vile or it's anything like that. I don't know. I don't know the woman. She looks like Mary, the mother of God to me. She looks like she's absolutely beautiful. She looks like a fantastic human being. Hey, I'd take her out to dinner anytime. She looks absolutely lovely and charming. I have nothing against her. I have no prescriptions and no prejudgments. Whereas, listen again, he's full of them.
You have a decision to make as a man. You know what I'm saying? There's gonna be chicks out here that are really, willing to gobble you down just because you look good, and you might spark that desire out of them. You know what I'm saying? It's just gonna be up to you to keep them in that zone. This right here is taking it to a whole different level. We got women out here that are really like cool with just for the notoriety, for the popularity, for the gram, for the turn up, for the exciting time. I'm going to literally get a train ran on me. It's like, yeah, bro, like they will really do anything for money. And at the end of the day, to a certain degree, I believe most women are really like for sale.
I just wondered, I can't see it on the menu, but where do I get the five guys from?
Now, see his conclusion? It's his conclusion that most women are for sale. What has a job, an economic activity, as long as it's legal, what has it got to do with the person performing that job? This same guy could be a soldier. He could be in Ukraine right now, and he could send a drone out and kill 100 people, and no one's going to condemn him because the Russians are aggressors, and he's doing his job. He's protecting his country. Now, this lady is in Great Britain, where such activity is legal. Brothels are legal in the UK, and this activity has been legal since the Isle of Man, and it regulated but legal. And here he is. He doesn't even speak her English dialect. He's unfamiliar with her history. He doesn't know what her nation's values. And now he's just on the internet making judgments. He could have made judgments about someone in his own culture that shares his own values, and then there would have been some legitimacy to this. But this is just totally illegitimate. This is the typical monolingual mentality at work.
The five guys. I didn't know if it was like a special room where you can take me out back.
No, I don't think that's happening.
What about after your shift? I'd want to give you, a good rating.
I'm a Christian man and I'm with Muslim man.
I'm asking for what's on the menu, that's all.
Genuinely, I feel like I'm doing it right now. I can hold your menu if you want.
Are you on it?
No, I'm not.
Oh, that's a shame.
Just to tell you the truth, bro, hey, that's what I believe, bro. I believe it's a price tag on it, price tag on the box today, for the most part. It's really nothing new under the sun. But I think because of social media, we got a lot more things being exposed now. Not to say that your great granny wasn't sleeping with, the milkman down the street when her husband was gone, and that stuff was happening a lot. Like, we hear stories about how now it's coming out that, hey, the milkman actually had plenty of kids. He was Genghis Khan around the neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? Just wasn't exposed as much. You know what I'm saying? We didn't have social media around. But
Okay. If a woman has 4 children, one of the 4 children generally is not going to be by her husband, her lover, whatever the case may be. It won't be by the man that she's in a relationship with. That's every place on earth, every culture. That is just an absolute, that's like an ironclad statistic. So to get all upset because your wife comes home with a little bundle of joy and it doesn't look like you, to me, I'd I'd rather just stay calm. You know, my father went through the same experience. He came home one day and you know and my mother said, "Hey, you know what? I'm pregnant." And he knew it wasn't his. He took her to the back room away from us and he talked to her and he said, "Look, you know what? When the kid comes, it's my son. I know you wanted another child, and and I haven't been timely in doing so, and that was the end of it. It was no big deal. It was no hoopla. It was no nothing. She had different goals than he had, but he didn't throw the relationship out the window just because there was another mouth to feed." you know, I never heard him say, "Oh my God, I got another mouth to feed. Look at this economic burden that you placed upon me." He never said that. He never said that. He loved her till the day he died. He loved her for her. He didn't worry about all of that other stuff. You know, he just didn't worry about that. You know, you worry about everything. There are just some things that you just cannot change. And one of the things that you can't change is Mother Nature. You can't tell Mother Nature how to run her shop. If Mother Nature was absolutely moralistic, I wouldn't be here.
But now that we have this stuff, we're starting to see the behaviors of certain women. We're starting to see what they will do just for the turn up or just for the camera. Or, it's some wild stuff, man. Like, hey, bro, best thing you can do, bro, is not catch feelings. Let these women prove themselves to you. This ain't even a chick that can qualify for you guys, period. Like any dude that was in that line, obviously he's not going out here with a Valentine, rose and then the card and then the damn chocolates trying to wife this chick up. Like, you're in line with 1,000 other dudes. This isn't the type of quality chick. Okay, guys need to also take this kind of integrity about the women they see on a day-to-day basis. A woman cannot get you in a serious relationship until at least a year. At least a year. A woman needs to earn it.
Now, here's the thing. There was a judge on the internet. He's about 80 years old. And for some reason, this judge, he runs over to the house. And for he was a divorce court judge. And so for some inexplicable reason, he runs into the house and asks a question that I would never ask of a woman. He runs in there and he says, "Hey, you know what? It's dawned on me. We have 4 kids. One is like 50, one is 45, one is 37, one is 34. And it just dawned on me that those kids don't look like me. Is there any way that you can go and allay my suspicions?" I guess after 40 something years in the divorce court, he finally figured out that some of the little foibles that women had might have crept into his life. I don't know how he got her and the kids to submit to the DNA test, but usually you have to have some sort of legal instrument to do that unless everyone is going to volunteer. So they all go down, everybody goes down, cheek swabbing, this, that, and other. And he finds out that it's not his kid. So he's driving down to the courthouse or whatever, and he says, "You know what?" He's in his car and he says, "You know what? I guess I've got to go over here and draw up the divorce papers. Looks like I have no other choice." And I should have known that these kids weren't my kids. All of them are foul, vile, and ugly. See, see, so he talked himself into something. He talked himself into something. He never said to himself, hold on, wait. I know that this all looks messed up. I know that I'm going to look like a simp. But you know what? What I didn't know didn't hurt me. Even though this is a fraud, I admit that, this is fraudulent. I will admit this. But you know what? I can kind of see her point. As many times as she and I were intimate, I never, none of my ejaculations resulted in one conception. She could have said right then and there that I'm going to run off with the milkman who can give me a child. Maybe he has less money than you, Judge, but we can have children and we can have a family. Whereas with you, it's going to be you and I forever, and that's always going to be unstable. So, on the Philippines channel, there's Maya and Gio. And so it turns out that Maya wanted to have children and Gio had a vasectomy. And so you say to these guys over and over and over and over again that most women, especially Filipinas, that their key to eternity is to have a child. The German story that I love, Marian Kind. Where Marian, the child of Marian, the child of the forester, is going up in flames, and then and Marian Kind has taken all 4 of her children to heaven, and she's being consumed by flames because the people think that she is a Monolingual, that she is a cannibal. And then at the last part of the story, she's taken up into heaven, and she's there with the Mother Mary and her 4 children. Okay, that is a story that all women can relate to. They understand their trials and tribulations on earth, but they also understand that through their children they gain immortality. And this is something that this guy is not taking into consideration. It's complicated. Women have their reasons for existence, just like I have my reason for existence. It's difficult to understand their reason for existence, but still they have a reason for existence. And that's what consistently happens with monolinguals, is that monolinguals make no attempt, because they make no attempt to understand anything other than the language that they speak. They also make no attempt whatsoever to understand other people. Well, you're going to say, well, my doctor, he only speaks English. False. You're going to say, well, my lawyer, he only speaks English. False. You're going to say, well, President Trump only speaks English. False. Remember, it takes 28 years to learn English. And those words that you are learning after those first 12 grades, or after those first 8 grades, all of those words are in Latin and in French. So you're saying that Trump does not speak parsed verbal French and Latin, but you can damn well be sure that he does speak it. He does speak it. He can go to France and put 2 sentences together. Trust me. Nearly every world leader can go to another country and put 2 sentences together. They don't go in completely, absolutely blind. All of the monolingual stuff that they say, that's just for public consumption. It's like when you watch Hollywood actors, you discover that nearly all of them, Jodie Foster, you go on and on and on and on down the list, and you watch an interview of them in another country, and they're speaking the language of the other country. You know? But if it's some guy like a John Wayne type that's playing in cowboy films, he isn't going to tell you that the guy that's his supporting actor, Yul Brynner, is not an American and that Yul speaks 12 languages. He's not going to tell you that. If you're an actor on the set of like Quividas or something like that, and who is that? I mean, he's one of my. He played Nero. I mean, he played Nero, and he's just a great actor. Ustinov. You know, the guy isn't gonna say, "Hey, stop the film, director. Stop the film." He's playing a Nero. You know what? Peter Ustinov is just absolutely brilliant. Could you give him more lines? No, not gonna say that, because people are looking at Ustinov's face. You're gonna watch somebody like Kirk Douglas shooting bullets all over the place, and you're never gonna realize that he spoke about 3 or 4 languages. His French is impeccable because you're gonna always want to be a monolinguist to the monolinguists. And so this guy, he's talking about a place where the woman engaged in legal, lawful activity, and he's trying to put his moral lens on it. Don't do that. Know before you go.